Good evening and welcome. Let's take a look at the top story we're tracking for you. Tensions continue to simmer between Russia and the West. This amid possibilities of Russian invasion of Ukraine. In the latest, Russia has submitted draft documents outlining security arrangements. Now, these are arrangements that it wants to negotiate with the United States and its NATO allies. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has said that it is likely that President Vladimir Putin may hold another round of talks with his American counterpart before the year ends. However, there have been no firm agreements yet. At present, there are reports of Russian buildups on the border with Ukraine. There are nearly 175,000 Russian troops deployed near the border. Speaking on which, the NATO chief, Jens Stoltenberg, has said that there was no sign the Russian military buildup was slowing, further calling it provocative and destabilizing.
Ukraine is a highly valued partner of our alliance, and I thank you for your personal commitment to our partnership. We discussed Russia's substantial military buildup in and around Ukraine, with tens of thousands of combat-ready troops, tanks, artillery, armored units, drones, electronic warfare systems. We see no sign that this buildup is stopping or slowing down. On the contrary, it continues. This buildup has no justification. It is provocative, it is destabilizing, and it undermines security in Europe.
The development comes as European nations huddle up, pushing their role as the mediator as tensions between Russia and the Ukraine reach an all-time high. During their summit held earlier today, EU leaders focused on preventing a Russian invasion of Ukraine. They threatened Moscow of unprecedented sanctions while extending the option of diplomatic talks.
Where Russia has to de-escalate the tensions and to avoid any aggressive actions against Ukraine. Because we are, the European Union member states, all united in order to support the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, and any aggressive action will be with higher political and economic costs.
Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda said that the EU should not underestimate the threat Russia's troop buildup poses. Now, speaking at the meeting, Germany's new Chancellor Olaf Scholz has warned Moscow not to cross any lines.
We will also discuss the difficult situation in Ukraine, the question about troop movements at the border. And therefore, we will emphasize here again today that the inviolability of the borders is one of the very important foundations of peace in Europe, and that we will all jointly do everything for this inviolability to remain in place.
Many of the leaders said they look toward diplomatic talks to stave off military action in Ukraine. On Wednesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that he was ready for any format of talks with Russia, but would still like to see a strong Western sanctions policy to deter Moscow from further escalating the situation. Now, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani is joining us live from New York. Hello to you, Susan. Thank you for being with us on this broadcast. Now, how do you think that the situation has evolved after the first round of talks between Biden and Putin? And furthermore, what can be realistically achieved in these talks following the EU and NATO's hardline on Ukraine?
Okay, so let's see what has happened since then. Russia has not only not withdrawn its troops from its border with Ukraine, it actually has beefed up its presence since those talks between Vladimir Putin and Joe Biden. There has also been a bilateral meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and China's leader Xi Jinping. They have promised some sort of coordination and cooperation together, vowing to work together, although not, of course, forming a formal alliance. Not to mention by keeping the focus and the headline on this so-called provocation on the part part of Russia and this Ukrainian threat on the part of Vladimir Putin, he was able to sort of put this summit of democracy headline on the back burner, and it really didn't get the coverage that it should, because once again the Ukraine crisis is back on the headline. So if we really want to take into consideration who has benefited from this crisis after these talks, it would be Vladimir Putin. These are the steps that he's been taking. So it's really, the question remains whether or not those discussions had been fruitful. One can argue that yes, Russia didn't really take a step forward and go as far as invading Ukraine. Perhaps Vladimir Putin, first of all, has not made up his mind whether he wants to do that or not, or whether or not he even intends on doing that. But even the situation, the provocation that has been created right now has been to the benefit of Vladimir Putin, many are arguing. I mean, his political standing at home is also very strong, because remember, for Russians, Ukraine is very important. It's somewhat of a cradle of civilization for the majority of Russians. So that's where we are right now. And moving forward with these discussions, I think many would want to see President Biden take a concrete and a firm stance on where he stands and make clear the United States policy regarding what it's willing to do and what it's not willing to do if Russia does take future measures and actions against Ukraine.
Right, Susan, while we have you, you did touch on it. Now, Russian President Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping have joined hands in their recent talks over the matter of the Olympics and regional groupings apart from Ukraine. What other agendas do you think are on the table there?
Between possibly Vladimir Putin and Joe Biden, if they do decide to hold this talk before the end of the year or early next year, perhaps in a matter of weeks, the issue of cybersecurity and cyber threats will probably be on the table. They always do discuss arms control, and that's sort of an issue that brings the two sides together and sort of brings the temperature down between the two sides. But Iran is also very important in the equation. The issue of the Middle East is a hot topic right now, and it could indirectly affect how Russia wants to move forward when it comes to Ukraine, considering the fact that the nuclear talks are really in limbo right now, and it's not yet clear what measures and what plans the United States has in moving forward. And Russia has raised concerns on America's mentioning of quote-unquote all options being on the table if Iran continues to sort of not make up its mind how it wants to move forward with these talks.
Right, Susan, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for being with us. Susan Tehrani bringing us all the latest following that first round of talks between Biden and Putin.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.